In the world of professional wrestling, there exists a concept called being over, which basically means that a wrestler has earned the fans' love and respect in some way, either through their sheer talent or their character. And this is a term that can be easily applied to many things, such as Jujutsu Kaisen's own Satoru Gojo, who, beyond just his overwhelming power, he's a very likable person, someone designed to be a likable rule breaker who values humanity and emotions over strict rules of his society. He's also so powerful that his mere existence in arcs gives a level of safety to them for our main characters. So the idea of someone being able to go over Satoru Gojo, or surpass him in any way, seems impossible, especially by the standards set up in the series. But such a man does exist. This being the young, yokai-yielding yippee-yay-sayer, Yuta Okkotsu, the special grade sorcerer. This video contains spoilers for Jujutsu Kaisen up to the most recent arc in the manga as of this video's release. So if you want to avoid spoilers, you've been warned. Yuta Okkotsu is a special grade Jujutsu sorcerer along with being the original protagonist of Jujutsu Kaisen, with him being the main focus of the original 4 chapters that were released on Jump Giga, and later compiled into JJK Volume 0. The reason he was recruited into the Sorcerer Academy was due to him being assumedly haunted by an extremely powerful cursed spirit of his childhood best friend, Rika, though that situation itself is more than it appears to be first on the surface. But before we get too deep into that, let's first understand the meaning behind Yuta's name and design. Yuta Okkotsu is a name drenched with meaning that matches up very well with his character. Starting first with his given name, Yuta, which when broken down is comprised of the characters for either grief or melancholy, along with having the utmost of something. So altogether, having the utmost melancholy or the utmost grief, which matches up very well with Yuta's own surface level character, as thanks to the powerful spirit of his deceased childhood friend haunting him, his life has been extremely difficult and filled with grief, as the spirit would constantly lash out and harm those who tried to hurt Yuta in any way, which not only resulted in him living somewhat of a friendless life, but also impacted his own visual design, with Yuta's most standout physical trait being his permanent bags under his eyes, likely due to the years of sleepless nights. And on top of that, Yuta's name is actually somewhat ironic, as his Yuta can be homophonous with another Yuta, which means someone filled with bravery, but also meaning someone who has a lot of friends, which is something that Yuta would later become, but doesn't start as. Along with that, the grief in his name doesn't just apply to the people that he's hurt through his interactions with, but something else that I'll cover later on in the video. Then we have Okotsu, which is a stranger name than normal, as when broken down it's comprised of rather interesting characters. Starting first with the character of Osu, which can be connected to Asian philosophy of the 5 phases, being specifically tied to the element of wood, and can symbolize growth and development, especially during one's early life, which matches up well with Yuta and his own recent discovery of his cursed energy, and need to grow and develop over the course of the story to learn to control it. Along with this, Otsu is also the yin portion of wood, meaning that it's connected to the negatives in nature, hearkening to the hardships he underwent in order to grow as a person, especially with Rika, given that yin is feminine in nature. And then you have the Kotsu portion of his name, which means adept or talented. So altogether, Okotsu could mean someone who has a talent for growth, which is likely in direct reference to his own curse ability, and more importantly, his potential with it. As while Yuta's family name is Okotsu, he has a bloodline connection to Sugawara no Michizane, a talented poet, scholar, politician, and most importantly, sorcerer, and is revered to in the Shinto faith as the god of learning. But in the Sorcerer Society, he's known as one of the 3 vengeful spirits, which has resulted in Yuta's own immense cursed potential, which takes the form of the cursed spirit known as Rika. Cursed Rika is essentially an acting guardian spirit for Yuta, watching over and defending him when she is called into action to do so, or feels that he has been significantly threatened enough, which honestly is actually a pretty low bar, as she's willing to mutilate someone for the minor offense of just bullying him. Though what makes Yuta and Rika such a terrifyingly unique team is one trait of Rika's specifically, this being her limitless supply of curse energy as stated by the spirit expert Geto. And with her shackled to Yuta, In turn, this offers him an endless supply of curse energy as well, though Yuta doesn't have a great grasp on how to control his energy yet, mostly using her energy through mediums like an engagement ring or his sword, though even then he sometimes overdoes it and breaks his objects. But once him and Rika are in sync, he's able to utilize her extreme limitless potential to use his own unique ability, the curse copying technique. The curse copying technique is one where Yuta can mimic any curse technique that he has seen used before, from the basics of just a reverse curse technique, or even using Sorcerer Family's special complex techniques such as curse speech. The limitation on this seems to be that Yuta's inexperience as a sorcerer doesn't allow him to direct the endless flow of curse energy that he's using properly, resulting in the effect of the copied curse being less precise than maybe someone who is an expert in it. Though he's able to learn super fast, and after a while he may be just as good as those that he's copying. Though what makes the copying technique interesting to me is it likely originates from Yuta's own idolization of those around him, seeing his friends like Toge or Maki as amazingly strong people that he wishes he could be, that he wants to emulate in a way, but can't be because of how much he relies on his cursed spirit. But when taking their hardships into mind, he's able to twist his usage of the cursed spirit into something that can actually emulate the people that he looks up to. Though, with that said, Rika is still Yuta's strongest option, especially when it's fully formed, as Rika just being free is a hazard to her surrounding areas, making quick work of any curse within range who threatens Yuta, being able to effortlessly destroy them with her endless curse energy. And on top of all of that, Rika still has some surprises buried within her, with her being able to increase her maximum limit of curse energy output in response to Yuta's own love for her, as while she's already an endless source of energy, when embraced or loved by Yuta, Rika finds herself able to output more than she normally can. So much so that she can shrug off full power assaults from the combined force of a special grade spirit, one of the limited 16 that exist, and 4,461 spirits Uzumaki together into a single attack. Though we've only been discussing Rika in the form of her cursed spirit form, we should understand her, the person, more, given her connection to Yuta is very important. Rika Orimoto was a human who became a spirit, and is a very strange figure in the series as a whole. Being someone with no history of curse techniques or relation to Sorcerer Society, she is just some girl, and she became Yuta's close friend at an early age, with them meeting at the hospital post the strange death of both her parents, and Yuta recovering from pneumonia. These two would bond very closely before they even entered elementary school, and would become fast friends throughout the year, Yuta even becoming the only person in the world that Rika actually liked, to the point that she would give him a gift in the form of an engagement ring when they were 11. The ring itself was her late mother's wedding ring that she had stolen. This item was meant to be a promise between the two, one that said that they would get married when they were old enough, though tragically, soon after, Rika would find herself being killed in a hit-and-run car accident, one orchestrated by Tadashi Okazaki, who was driving without a license that day, which is a really cool connection back to the main series itself. But what made this moment significant is that Yuta would stumble upon the scene of the crime, seeing his friend lying dead in the street. The shock from this moment traumatized Yuta, and he just kept wishing for one thing, that being that his friend would return to him, and unfortunately, that wish would be granted, as Rika's spirit returned in the form of a powerful curse. And because of this connection to Yuta, her revival comes from Yuta's love and grief for her loss, unknowingly awakening his extreme curse potential, placing a curse upon her that would make it so that she wouldn't die. And this is why Rika is given such a power-up by Yuta's love for her, along with holding no ill will towards Yuta when he finally realizes what he did to her. She says that her 6 years of being his cursed spirit have been more happy than the 11 years of life that she was born with. And her connection to Yuta's own awakening is made very clear if you dissect her name. Rika Orimoto essentially means the reasoning behind one's origin, and her being the origin of Yuta's power makes that pretty clear what this is supposed to mean. Along with this, her title as a curse is actually kind of interesting, with her being said to be the Queen of All Curses, which is obviously referenced in the later Sukuna's own title of King of All Curses, and I feel this really establishes how powerful she is now that we know how powerful Sukuna is. And let me say, everything great about Cursed Rika that I've mentioned is a testament to just how powerful Yuta's cursed energy really is. Because when you look at Rika's ability and everything that makes her terrifying, from her limitless potential to overwhelming strength, you need to remember that she exists purely because of Yuta and his bloodline. One that just so happens to share a familia bond with Satoru Gojo himself. And because of this, I feel Yuta is someone who could very well surpass Gojo, with Gojo himself even having faith in him, even when others have doubt. And what mainly leads me to believing this is looking at Rika's feats so far. I think that she might be a cursed spirit comprised of the Gojo family's own limitless technique, or something at least made from similar energy, which is possible due to Yuta's blood relation to Michizane Sugawara, and of course, Satoru Gojo himself, so it's not impossible for him to have access to it. And what makes me believe this is Rika's abilities are similar for a few reasons. Firstly, Rika is basically invincible, seen best when she essentially takes no damage from Geto's own most powerful technique, Uzumaki. Her unharmed state is similar to Gojo's own Infinity Protection, where an attack instead of hitting you would hit the infinite space between you and your attacker. Along with this, Rika also possesses a powerful beam-like attack when powered up, leading me to believe it's similar in part to Limitless Red, especially since the explosive force of this technique was able to decimate Geto in his curses, resulting in a blast that blew off his whole right arm. On top of this, Rika can also create a sort of pocket space of cursed energy that can attract things together so that she can move them without issue, as seen when she picks up Maki, Toge, and Panda and moves them to safety for Yuta's sake, which is very similar in nature to Limitless Blue, an ability that creates an attraction that drags things together, usually used in an offensive way, but there's no reason that it can't be used to recover something. And of course, in chapter 137, we see what is assumedly Rika fully erasing a curse in a similar fashion to Gojo's own Hollow Purple technique, though albeit in a confined area. I'll also address the fact that while Limitless is an ability that not only requires immense curse energy to use, but practice to master, and a connection to the Gojo family to even contemplate using it, we've seen Rika and Yuta both use their endless or limitless flow of curse energy to compensate for their lack of training. Yuta is even able to copy techniques that are impossible for normal people to master, even if they were powerful sorcerers, which means the usage of Limitless isn't as impossible as it initially seems on the surface. Now with this, I should specify that we don't exactly know if these are intentional connections to Limitless, as Rika's main abilities haven't been explained fully yet, so ultimately this is just a guess on my part, though I felt like the connection stuck out enough that I felt like it was okay to mention it. Though what we do know about Yuta is that after the night parade of 100 demons, he would leave with Miguel, a mercenary sorcerer from outside of Japan who was hired by Geto to initiate the attack on Christmas Eve, but ended up joining Sorcerer Society in a sense after becoming a hero of that incident, with him destroying the most curses. Miguel was likely selected as Yuta's trainer because he comes from a sorcery origin that has the ability to mess with one's curse energy, or the flow of curse energy, meaning that he can ultimately keep Yuta contained as he learns to control his ability more and more. And Yuta has, in 1 year of training, refined his talents to an insane degree, becoming a much more confident and skilled swordsman, with his design even changing to reflect this, slicking his hair back to notify that he is more serious and now more professional. Though while his design now gives off a more intimidating or imposing look, his kind heart doesn't seem to have changed much at all, as he cares deeply about the safety of those around him, and valuing those others' achievements, shown best in him commending a young girl for traveling as far as she has in a dangerous neighborhood all by herself. Along with this, his loyalty to his friends and their safety is also shown by Yuta swearing vengeance on Yuji, not for everything else that happened in the Shibuya incident, but for him critically harming his best friend Toge. Along with this, it would appear that Yuta has found a way to fully control Rika, but her existence at this point is somewhat confusing, though I assume that will be more explained with time. And when that time comes, I'll be sure to remake this video. Though, if I were to offer a guess on this whole situation, I assume that Rika's spirit is still lingering, given the final words that Yuta has to her is that they would be together forever, but this was before the curse was broken. I feel like, in a similar way to Takuma Ino and his auspicious beast summoning technique, Yuta is able to use himself as a medium between Rika's spirit and the afterlife, creating a sort of curse that doesn't force her to assist him, like before, but more so leaves the door open open for her to come and protect him, which, given her loyalty and love for him, she would jump at any chance to do. And with Yuta's return to the series, I think it's very interesting to look at Yuji as a character and how much of a parallel to Yuta of a protagonist Yuji ended up being, as where Yuta was physically weak and unable to defend himself properly without Rika, Yuji was someone who had superhuman physical strength. Along with this, Yuta and Rika's relationship is a loving, mutualistic one, where Yuji and Sukuna is a extreme parasitic one, where both partners are actively hating each other in some way, and in some cases, even work to sabotage the other's plans. I feel like these parallels were very intentional, right down to even giving Yuji and Yuta the same exact introduction, along with Rika and Sukuna having similar titles. Even the rage of these two characters is depicted basically the same, which is what will make the conflict between the two so interesting in the coming chapters. But with that all in mind, Yuta's return to the main series is something that I've been waiting for since I've gotten into Jujutsu Kaisen. Probably my absolute favorite character in the series itself, right next to Gojo. And hopefully, Akutami-sensei has some treats in store for me and other fans of Yuta in the coming chapters, especially any scene that would show him interacting with the second years in any way. And with that all said and done, I hope you enjoyed this video about as much as I enjoyed making it. And if you want to support me and my channel in the future, I have a Patreon at patreon.com/MediNotTheBadGuy. It helps keep this channel afloat, so any little bit helps. And if you want to see your own secret talent buried within yourself, well, you can do so by buying a copy of Shimoneta, A Boring World Where the Concept of Dirty Jokes Doesn't Exist, as it enumerates cursed energy.